I have something really cool to share with you today. Condensed down a 5-hour interview with Andrew Tate. And you may know that name, you may not know that name, but he's a little controversial these days, for sure. And you have a lot of fans and you have a lot of haters for Andrew Tate. And so at first glance, if you're just listening to what you're reading in the general newspapers, you think this guy is an unsavory character. Maybe he's involved in some not so legal stuff. The truth is, I mean, if you really want all the details, watch the extent of the interview. I'll put the link in the notes here, and you'll get to hear all the details. But the truth is, he's a legit guy, and he has some great wisdom to share. He's very outspoken on the power of the original man, masculine archetype, and how important that is to maintain those divisions of gender, male and female, and how we were designed. He just has some really good things to say. At the end, he shares his 41 life principles that he's kind of come up with. He's just a guy of principles. Yeah, maybe he made his money in a little bit questionable way. I don't think any of it's illegal from what I can tell. And do I agree with everything he has to say? No, but we have to stop just listening to people that fit our mold or our persona or our belief system. I've learned a lot throughout my life, opening my mind to allowing myself to listen to people that may not be like me or believe like me, because you can learn a lot if you open yourself up and listen. So enjoy this interview. I think you're going to learn a lot. And this is Mark from Vera Virtus. The life clock is ticking. Go live with strength.
Called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Stoicism.
Yep.
You've referenced Stoicism multiple times, not getting emotional, thinking rational.
Yep.
This was a book that you've subscribed to for years. What is it about Stoicism and not getting caught up in emotions and even triggering emotions that resonates with you?
Well, emotions are feedback. The idea that men don't feel emotions is incorrect. We feel emotions. I would actually argue we feel emotions with certain emotions stronger than women. I would argue that we feel heartbreak stronger than women. I would argue we feel anger like a woman could never understand. I would argue we are extremely emotional. Rage, pure rage. But it's feedback. So when you get the feedback, it's all about how you internalize it and how you process it, right? It's stoicism's not feeling emotions. It's feeling the emotion and going, okay, why is this happening? How much does this really matter? What's the most intelligent move on the chessboard? I'm not even that good at chess, right? My father was a grandmaster. I'm like 1800 ELO. I'm okay. I was a child chess prodigy, but I stopped playing chess professionally when I was like 8. So I'm as good now as I was. In fact, I'm worse now than when I was 8, because I've never taken any lessons or anything properly since, because my mother and father broke up. We moved to England. My dad stayed in America. Lost my chess coach, and England didn't have a chess infrastructure. America had a chess infrastructure in the lower income schools. My dad used to go to the ghetto schools because he was black, go to the black schools and teach them how to play chess. So we had a big infrastructure.
So you peaked at 8.
I peaked at 8, yeah. But chess is a fantastic game, because in the game of chess, there's no luck. If you lose, no matter how well you played, if you lose, at some point you made a mistake. Even if it's the most minor mistake, you made a mistake. So you learn to understand that no matter what happens to you, if you lose a scenario, you made a mistake. Maybe it's a tiny one. Maybe it was 2 years ago, whatever, but you made a mistake, and you learn absolute and utter accountability for yourself. And that mentality is extremely powerful to apply to all things in life. The position I'm in now as the most hated man in the world, although I agree and I truly believe it's unfair, I still take complete responsibility for. I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm telling you why it happened when I talk about TikTok and YouTube shorts, but I'm not going to blame them. Absolutely. They're a company making money and they're monetizing the best they can. Fantastic. All of this is my fault. But the Bugatti on my drive is my fault. And the yacht is my fault. And the private jet's my fault. So it's all my fault. So I take the good with the bad. I take all responsibility for absolutely everything, including if a woman leaves me, if a woman stays, if I end up heartbroken, if I end up filled with rage, I take responsibility for that. If something happens to me that makes me enraged, I will take responsibility. Why has this happened to me? Why do I feel this way? How did I end up in this position? Is this healthy in this scenario? And sometimes it is. I've had scenarios in my life where I was prepared to die to protect somebody else, and I was enraged, and it was healthy. I've also had times where I'm in a room by myself, enraged, sitting there going, this is no good for anybody. I need to just calm the fuck down. Mm-hmm. So emotions are feedback, but stoicism is the ability to process them. And that's what you need to be learn as a man. You're never going to be able to turn them off. You're going to feel them. You have to learn how to process them and turn them into a positive. It's energy. It's unlimited energy. I say this all the time. I say that the biggest periods of transformation in my life is when everything was going wrong. When my life was going good, I'm not a hedonistic person. I don't do drugs. I don't gamble. I don't do prostitutes. I don't do anything that hedonistic. But I'll certainly go on the yacht with a bunch of women I know and chill and have some vodkas and that kind of thing. When life's smooth, then it's semi-hedonistic, pretty relaxed. But when I make my biggest progress, when I really change who I am and change the world, that's when everything's fucked. When things go wrong, or I'm feeling things I don't want to feel, or bad things are happening, that's when I'm like, okay, I currently cannot sleep. I've completed the day's tasks. I've tried to go to bed. I can't sleep. More shit has to get done. That's when the amazing things happen in my life. When I was heartbroken, when I was whatever, everyone's been heartbroken. I can't remember a specific example. I hit the gym harder, right? If something goes wrong with your payment processor, that's when you get fucking inventive. That's business, right? That's when you get inventive. So all the bad things that happen to you as a man, if you're stoic, you get to take unlimited energy. Heartbreak is unlimited energy. So is depression. So is rage. So is sadness. All these negative emotions they tell you to collapse behind. It's like people talk like Bruce Lee says, be like water. And people see that as be fluid and just go with the flow. I disagree. If you're like water, you're necessary for life. You are scary when you're enraged. You're powerful. You're beautiful when you're calm. You're so many things when you're like water, right? So if I'm enraged, it's like water behind a dam. You just got to put the dam in place, and you got to get the turbo, the hydroelectrics put in. Don't tsunami your life. Put the energy somewhere. And this is the most beautiful thing about it, because people message me all the time like, oh, but Tate, you don't know how sad I feel. No, incorrect. I know exactly how sad you feel. Difference is I used it. And you're sitting here still crying, some random guy on email for the fucking third month in a row. That's the difference between you and me, my friend. I was becoming a world champion kickboxer. I got to a point, people often talk about depression and say I don't understand it. I will say, listen, there's been times in my life where I was fully functional as an adult. I would never label myself depressed because I don't believe in the idea of labeling myself in a negative, because I don't believe in things that take power from me, which we'll talk about in a second. But there's been times in my life where I didn't give a fuck if I lived or died. There's been times in my life where I went to fight a man for money, and I didn't give a shit if I lost and even woke up again. Didn't give a fuck. I had nothing worth living for. I was brokey, didn't have a girlfriend, didn't have any fucking money, got a 2-day call to fight some world champion, had to lose 10 kilos in 2 days, had nothing else going for me, got on a plane to Dagestan and fucking won. There's been times I've done that. By all conventional wisdom, I was depressed, I was suicidal, but I was just like, no, I don't give a shit. And that's when I was at my most powerful. Now if I get that call, I'm like, bro, I got a new car outside and shit.
I'm not going to Dagestan, bro.
Going to where? Sorry, how much money? Nah. But back then I was like, yeah, cool. Who is he? Oh, this guy. All right, fine. I didn't give a fuck. I was most powerful when I was sad, when I was depressed, when all these things. Mm-hmm. And the difference was the framing. It was the framing of it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Things people attack me for is their little quote is they say, you said depression isn't real. What about the men who kills themselves? You don't care about men's mental health. We've already discussed how I care more about men's mental health than these people who fucking pretend they do. That's the first thing. I didn't say depression isn't real. I said feeling depressed is real. But the idea that depression is going to strike you in your mind and there's nothing you can do about it, I think that is promoting helplessness amongst depressed people, and that's the reason they kill themselves. I don't think that making people helpless in an unfortunate situation is the great thing to do. You have to give people hope. And I explained that when you believe in something, you give it power. So I tried to say that when I felt at my lowest and I achieved the most I've ever achieved in my life, the reason I was capable of doing that is because I didn't believe in the paradigm of being a depressed person. I just believed that this is how I currently feel, and fuck it, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my life to be better. And I gave a very simple example, an analogy. I said, if you take two people, one believes in ghosts and one doesn't. You put them both in haunted houses. And in the middle of the night, there's a bang. The person who believes in ghosts is now terrified. There's a ghost. They're calling an exorcist. They're panicking in the room. They're hiding. The person who doesn't believe in ghosts goes wind and goes back to sleep. It's the same noise. It's the same scenario. But it's the belief
that's powerful
in their mind that terror and ruins their life. It's the belief in their mind that turns against them. And I've said this many times. I don't even give a shit about right and wrong. You can tell me you can give me with every scientific proof in the world, depression, blah, blah. I refuse to believe in things that take my power away from me. I'm only going to construct a mental model that allows me to be as powerful as possible. If believing in the idea of depression is going to take my own power away, then I won't believe in it. I don't want to believe in things that make me weak or crying or sad or whatever. You're allowed to feel sad. Of course, your girl left you, you lost your job, you're allowed to feel sad. That's fine. You feel sad. You feel sad right now? Good, great. Sit the booze. Shut the fuck up. Me and my brother have another quote. What do you want? Therapy? That's our quote. We say it all the time for anything. Bro, I got a hangover. You want therapy? No. Well, then what the fuck? Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Like, why are you even saying it out loud? Why are you believing in it? Yeah. Why are you making it real? We all feel like trash. We drunk 10 bottles of whiskey. We all feel like trash, but we're high net worth individuals getting out of Ferraris in a country we don't have security. Nobody's walking fucking like weaklings. It's a reality you have to curate. And when you get your shit straight, it affects your entire life. And men understand this. They say, I understand you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Then why are you friends with all these fucking nobodies? Masculine, strong men who protect women. That's what I champion. I say all the time, people trying to say I'm negative and my mindsets are negative. If you call a police officer in the heat of battle, you want men brave like me. If you call a fireman, you want him to charge into a burning building. You want men with the tenets I teach. We are protectors of society. We're absolutely not the predators of society. It are the people who are my detractors, the ones I talked about, who are objectively unattractive and objectively unsuccessful. They are the predators, not successful men. I have so much respect for it because I respect anybody who says what they mean and means what they say. And I feel like they're the only religion who do. I feel like every other religion is so wishy-washy that it doesn't mean anything anymore. I don't believe in ignoring the tenets of your own religion for acceptance or for mainstream news to like you. Then what do you have? They say what they mean what they say. And primarily they focus on family and their own. And I have to absolutely respect that. And like I said, I grew up around these huge Muslim families where all of them had pretty unremarkable jobs and they still had property portfolios and supercars. And I was just like, okay, that's the power of brotherhood. That's all it is. I only had one brother. I wish I had 10. Imagine there was 10 Tate brothers.
Oh, no.
And punish all perpetrators. And I like that. So he'll watch the news. I used to see my dad watch the news, allow the manipulation, watch it all, turn it off and say, son, this is bullshit. And he'd sit there and dissect it all from head to toe. So he'd allow manipulation. He wouldn't deny it. He wouldn't say, no, don't come at me with bullshit. He'd say, oh, you have a bullshit story. Come tell me your bullshit story. Come tell me.
He would say, don't watch the news. It's all bullshit.
No, tell me.
Embrace it.
And then he'd use his mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator. So he was very understanding of this. And a lot of his tweets are good for these kind of things. He was saying, allow them to attempt to manipulate you. It's no problem. Another thing he says, one of the things I said earlier in this podcast was his. You must analyze every firmly held belief you have, realize where it came from, who gave it to you, and if they have your best interests at heart, resist the slave mind. He said all this stuff, so I'll tweet it out. So yeah, he's still alive to a degree, you know. So whether he's watching or not, on one of my Instagram posts, which got deleted, there was a Povetkin, the boxer. It was a interaction in his corner of the 11th round of a title fight for Povetkin in the early 2000s, and his corner was saying, "Do you miss your father?" And you say, yes, Mr. Father. He goes, if you become champion, he lives forever. Oh, shit. And he's right. If you become remarkable enough as a man, they talk about your origin story, which is your father.
Psychological torture when someone's doing that to you.
Yeah.
Like your dad is doing that to you, he's challenging you.
Yeah.
But he obviously responded to it. He became an assassin in the game of basketball because he received it.
Correct.
But the individual has to receive it as well.
The individual has to receive it. And also, but I think the modern world's changed because there's a lot more opposite programming to your parents than there used to be. I used to go to school, finish school, come home, play chess. I was never really allowed to really watch too much TV. I didn't play Nintendo too much. I played chess. That was it. That's all I really did. So besides the school teacher or the little bit of school I had, I didn't have too much outside programming from the matrix itself. But nowadays, when you're raising a child, it's far more scary because you're trying to teach them things. That's fine. But YouTube's trying to teach them something else. And Netflix trying to teach them something else. And school is trying to teach them something else more than ever before. And on top of that, if you're not a wealthy individual, your wife now has to go to work, right? Because you have 2 incomes to pay the bills. So your children are not even at home with the mother or the woman who adopts with your ideals, because otherwise you wouldn't be together. Now they belong to the state effectively in many different ways. The school raises them, then an aftercare program, then internet raises them. So now you have a very difficult job. And you'll see, even if you look at YouTube now, children disagreeing with their own parents about certain issues, no matter what they are, topical issues, politics, LGBT, whatever. the parents will say, no, that's not true. Well, I heard in school it's true, because they spend more time inside the matrix than they do with their own parents now. And it's very, very difficult now as a parent to get that hard time with your kid and say, resist that. I want you to be this way. It was easier when I was raised. Now that's scary. I think it's a very, very difficult job parents have now because of that. Because the programming is exceptionally strong because it's entertaining, right? And we've all developed ADHD and we're all glued to social media and addicted to our phones, and things are coming through the phone. And that's the argument they tried to use to ban me. I argue that I'm a positive force and there's far more negative forces than me on the internet, which are trying to infect the children than I am. That's the argument I have. I'd argue that I'm the complete opposite to it. But yeah, it's a scary world now. It's scary to have a child.
I have a simple question for you, but it's actually very deep. Because you'll understand where I'm going with this. How many times have you seen the movie The Matrix? Because this is a major theme of yours.
Yes.
And Pat, I don't want to let the cat out the bag. You just saw it for the first time
2
on the
days
flight
ago.
here.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
Okay? So how many times have you seen The Matrix?
15, 20?
15. This has a major influence in your life. This
Correct.
concept,
Correct.
right?
It's an easy way for me to express in a few words how I view the world works. I've adopted something from popular culture and I've adapted it to try and quickly explain. If I try and sit and explain that most people are being used for their resource, they're being projected a reality that isn't true, they're convinced of things that aren't true, they're promised that if they slave away hard enough, at the end you'll retire. At the end it'll be good, which is a lie. And they're just used for their resource until they die. To get into that and explain it at length is difficult. But if I say you're inside of the Matrix and they've seen the movie, they're like, what do you mean? You're inside of the Matrix. You're living inside of a projected reality and your body heat is being extracted in real time for the machines. That's what's happening to you. And they're like, I don't understand. You will understand once you break free. How do I break free? You break free when you can talk freely. This is the thing that's amazing. And I talk a lot about money, but I'm not that financially driven. I just understand if you don't have money, you can't have an opinion. You can't say what you think. You can't do what you're not told to do because then you can't pay the mortgage. If they say wear a mask to come to work, even no matter how much you know that mask is fruitless, you must pay the bills. You must comply. That's the Matrix. You have no force but to comply. It's only when you get to a point of money where you can say, no, my principles are worth losing X million. That's when you can escape the Matrix. Money is a primary motivator to escape. I've always been interested in freedom more than money. It's not about having nice things. It's about having freedom of mind and freedom of thought and freedom and autonomy of my own body. That requires money. Or it requires the complete opposite, like I said earlier. It's either no money, living on the street, or a lot of money. Anywhere in between, you're controlled. But if you ain't got shit and you're on the beach, wear a mask, get fucked. Get fucked. We're going to take my house, I ain't got one. No.
So when did
give
you...
me a fine,
Sure.
go on then. Like, I ain't got any money. Like, so that's the only way you escape. You escape through extreme poverty or escape through wealth. And I was prepared to take either route. I was prepared to take either one. Absolutely and utterly real. And I think that it is based in the natural. I think it's a natural tendency to be conservatively minded if you are masculine and also if you are competent. I feel like a lot of my traditional masculine values just come from my respect in myself and my confidence in myself in dangerous situations. Recently I was in the Romanian mountains. It started to snow heavily. There was a blizzard. I was with a girl. It was her car. She goes, oh, we have to drive home. I said, I'm going to drive. She goes, my car. I said, yeah, but I'm going to drive. She goes, why? Because this is a blizzard. She's like, well, okay. It's not me being misogynistic. It's just, I know I can drive in a blizzard. I just trust me. I just trust myself. And I trust future self even more than I trust my current self, if that makes sense. So if I have a situation now where I have a play to make and it seems semi-risky, I'll think, well, future Andrew's even better than current Andrew. So future Andrew, 4 years from now, he'll fix it. Let's say it goes wrong. Future Andrew's got it. If current Andrew can pull X off, future Andrew can pull Y off. So we're going to take the riskier option with a bigger reward, for example. Obviously, you don't have to be stupid, but I think that when you have true belief in yourself and you have true competence, you're going to naturally inclinate towards being a protector and a provider and have these conservative values. It's really interesting that the closer a society is to the survival line, the closer people naturally bend to their gender roles anyway. So let's say we take America, right, where you have feminists and hard liberals and all this garbage. If they were all marooned on a desert island, let's say there's a shipwreck, they got marooned on a desert island, one of two things would happen. They'd stick with their Western world garbage and perish, or they would all quickly align to the natural baselines of humanity, the gender roles. The men would build and hunt, the women would gather and look after the sick, and then they'd survive. the closer you are to survival, the more important you are. The more important it is that you align to your gender role, because if you don't have a chance of survival. So in countries where it's harder to survive, they're more traditionalistic. It's only in very, very privileged societies can we pretend that you do not need a man who can protect himself and others. So that's a very privileged society, right? So I think when you have a hard life and you've lived a life on edge, you're naturally going to be inclining towards those things, towards reality and towards conservative values and towards traditionalism, because that that gives you the highest chance of survival. I have a highest chance of survival if I focus on doing X and I am this type of person, and the woman next to me is this type of person. And that gives us the best chance. And that makes me a traditionally masculine male and her a traditionally feminine female, especially if you're living a difficult life. Does that make sense? And especially in many parts of the world, that's still true today. In most of the world, that's still true today. We're talking on these podcasts to extremely privileged individuals who want to sit and throw away 98% of how the world functions and say it's bullshit and come along with this brand new thing they've invented for the last 15 years. And I say this often. I say, you find me dangerous that I said something that got me in a lot of trouble. So I'll say it again. I said that if I was going to get on a plane that was going to fly through the eye of a hurricane, and there was a 50% chance of it crashing, I would prefer a male pilot than a female pilot. Feminist lost her mind, called me misogynistic. I said, no, I think that men are calmer under pressure. I'm not saying the pilot, assuming they have the same skill, I'm talking about just the pressure of the plane crashing. In my experience, men are calmer under mortal pressure than a woman would be. She might panic, and then we're definitely going to die. I'm not saying she would panic. I'm not saying all women would panic. I'm saying if I had to choose male pilot or female pilot for this semi-suicide mission, I would choose a male pilot. That's my life experience, right? Everyone will attack me for that, but that's just a life I've lived. By extension, if I had to drop my children off at nursery, I want to drop them at an all-female nursery. I'd never drop my 3-year-old or 4-year-old kid if I had one at an all-male nursery. That'd be weird. So to me, this is how most of the world still functions. This is how the Western world functioned until 10 or 15 years ago. And I say these things and I'm vilified, but I truly believe I wouldn't be so popular and not so many people would resonate with me if large swaths of the population didn't go, well, he has kind of got a point, I guess. I don't think it's that bad. I think a lot of the world is still quite conservative, even in the West. There's just a very, very vocal minority that have all the control of the narrative that are trying to convince the world otherwise. I think the majority of even happy relationships, the man's a man, the woman's a woman. I think that's pretty standard. Perhaps I'm wrong, but in my experience, it certainly is.
You know what I think would be interesting? You know,
a protective man who wants to protect. And being a man in a position of protecting is not always a good thing. I feel indebted and have a duty to myself and my honor, meaning that if I'm walking down the street with a beautiful woman and 3 men want to attack her, I have to risk my life now. I can't live my life letting my wife get gang raped on a fucking street and running away. I can't take it as a man. So I have to now die. I have to die or try. I have no choice. So, but that's my duty. But they'll ignore that part. They'll ignore the part where I risk my life, right? And they'll say, oh, but you just want to be controlling, misogynistic. No, I have a duty to protect. I'm calmer under pressure because I've been in more unfortunate situations. I've had more trauma in my life, which has trained me to be more calm under pressure. I would hate to meet a woman who's been through as much trauma as I have. That's not the kind of, that wouldn't make her a good woman. I don't think women need trauma at that level. I don't want women who've been stabbed. There's no need for that. But I have been through it. So I think that in my experience, extrapolation, that men who are successful, a lot of them have been through enough for me to trust them more in a high pressure situation. And like I said, this comes with massive responsibility. This comes with massive detriments and downsides, right? And the feminists are like, no, you're controlling. It's not about controlling. It's about duty. There was no feminist on the Titanic. Then men can die. There's no feminists to this day in Ukraine. The Ukrainian women can leave. You'll see them partying in Warsaw and Prague. Ukraine. That's another thing I said when I was getting called misogynistic and I was arguing with feminists. I said, traditionally, men are the leaders. And in ancient societies, men were in charge. That's because men are oppressive. You've oppressed us forever. That's their narrative. Their narrative is that we've oppressed women forever. I said, no, we've protected and provided for you forever. The reason we are leaders is because if we align with our gender roles, a man's more likely to lead, and that gives us a more competitive chance. In the olden world, where all the empires were currently fighting, if you're not as competitive as possible, you're going to be annihilated. I would argue that perhaps there were some civilizations where women were in charge. But we don't know who they are, and we can't discuss their history because they were fucking annihilated in real time by the ones where the men were in charge. because you are hyper competitive. You're at your optimum when men are in charge. That's just the optimum of the gender roles. That's the way it works. I don't believe we've been oppressing you since the dawn of human time. I disagree. I believe we've been working hard, protecting, providing for you. If men were truly oppressive to women, why don't we send the women to war? Women on women, it's fair, right? We can send all the women to war in Ukraine, all the women to war in Russia. They can die, and we can sit and we can chill and we can go to Warsaw and drink vodka. We don't do that. The men of Ukraine and the men of Russia are dying to protect their women. And then they want to sit and say that we're bad? It's a fantastic environment, and I think in an idealistic world, that's the way it would be. I think the reason it's not happening today is that I don't think many men actually benefit from marriages or relationships anymore. And people are always going to have to require some degree of incentive. I think that we've set up the world now in a way where men are seen as worker droids. They're expected to go work all day, come home, clean up as well, share the cleaning with the woman, not have no meal prepared for them, not have any authority over the household, and just be a worker droid and be sad. And I don't think that many people understand that men are intrinsically wired to desire respect amongst our peers and in our environments. This is why CEOs work so hard, because they get respect in their company. This is why we all want so much money and fast cars and status and influence, because we're respected. Men desire respect like we desire oxygen. And if a man's coming home to a household where he doesn't feel any respect, he's not going to want to be there for very long. And I think the way you fix this is you need to understand that many men don't have an incentive to be in the house anymore. I think that it's actually would be quite easy for a woman. In fact, there's a couple women who even say this on YouTube. I can't remember their names, but it'd be quite easy for a woman to make a man really happy with super basic things. Just go up to your husband and say, hey, you know more about this. What do you think about this? That would make most men's world. And there's so many sexless marriages out there with men who work their ass off and they come home to a sexless marriage and kids who don't fucking even like them. If you were to just even ask him his question about some asinine bullshit, a lawnmower purchase, for example, he would feel so happy to feel like the man of the house. That's what men need. They need to feel like all this work I'm putting in, all this shit I'm going through, I'm respected for it. As soon as a man feels like he has no respect, that's the absolute end of a man's interest or a man's tolerance of a situation. I think that's the reason it's happening. I know a lot of men who completely love their wives. They love them with all their heart. They die for her. But he's just not respected in his house. He doesn't get to be the man of the house.
Is it on him or is it on her? Like, does he need to go earn it or is it on her to provide it?
It's a combination of both. I think it's certainly on him to earn it, but also the matrix programming is counter to him. The matrix programming is trying to tell him that he shouldn't be allowed to be the man of the house, that he shouldn't be allowed to have any kind of authority in any regard. He shouldn't be allowed to be able to say what happens. The matrix programming is saying the absolute opposite all the time. And if that's getting into your woman and you don't have that much influence, and that's getting into all your children, you don't have that much influence, now you're coming home to a household where everyone just thinks you're the dude who should just fucking work. You're just a worker droid. You're the slave. You're the robot. And your feelings don't matter and your authority doesn't matter, and get fucked. And this is very conscious. If you watch any Netflix show, the mother is the smart one and the man is the bumbling idiot. Turn on a show. I dare you, turn on a family show. The mother is the one, hey, calm down, I'm smart. And the man's like, oh, beer. Watch any of these shows.
They're trying, Guy, The Simpsons, Married with Children.
Any of it, all of it. They're reducing the man to just a bumbling idiot. And it's very hard, I think, for a lot of men to accept being in a position of constant disrespect. I'll tell you this now. If I had to choose a long-lasting marriage with a woman who loved me or a woman who truly respected me, I might choose respect over love. Even though they're the same thing for a woman, because she loves you, she respects you by default. But if I had to choose, I'd choose respect. I've been through too much and worked too hard and go through too much in day-to-day life to come home to my house and be having battles over asinine bullshit. Proponent for love. I believe in a man loving a woman. I don't think many women understand how deeply men love. Love is real. What's that film? Troy. That was about a chick. The fucking warring tribe, the warring countries. Like, love is real. It's absolutely a real thing. But what we want in return, more than even love back, is respect. We want to be respected by the woman we love. That's what we want. And I think the women who truly understand that are the smart ones and also the dangerous ones, because I've met some female players out of Ukraine and Moldova, and they're pretty sharp. They know the game and they know exactly what to do to get the billionaire. And I've seen them pull it off. So a fantastic question. And I know exactly how to answer it. So the first things first is I do not like to hang around with men who suffer from a lack of women, because in my experience, any man who can't get women will eventually sell you out for women. It's too powerful a force. Too powerful a force. If you're completely sex deprived all the time, sooner or later, you're going to sell your boys out for sex, whether it's his ex or some girl talking bad about your boy, but you really want the pussy, so you let her slide. If you're not good with girls, I don't want to talk to you. Second thing is money. You haven't got to be rich, but if you're starving, you're going to try and sneak some money out of somebody, right? If you can't eat, you'll do anything for food. If you can't pay the bills, you do anything for money. That means whether it's a plea bargain, whether it's trying to rob me, whether it's money sitting around my house. I don't want to talk to extremely broke people. I don't want to talk to extremely sex-deprived people for the same reason I wouldn't have a whole bunch of food around a hungry person. Same reason. It's the first two things. Next thing is loyalty. And I know that's super hard to judge, but I really like to believe that the few people I hang around with, if we were all in separate police interviews and they were to come and say, hey, your boy turned, I could literally burst out laughing. Say, bro, you better come with a new story, G. You better go away and think about it and come back. Well, we can talk, but don't try that one. Try again. So loyalty is very, very important. Next is bravery, because can't fight is fine, but won't fight isn't. Won't fight is unacceptable on every level. If I'm with my 5 friends and I'm going toilet in the club and I come back and I see someone punch one of my friends, I am annihilating anybody in that guy's crew. We'll find out why later. My guy could have been wrong. It could have been my guy's fault. I'm just hitting him. I'm just knocking everyone. When everyone's asleep and the threat is neutralized, I'm like, bro, the fuck was that? He goes, oh, I started it. I was like, oh, fucking. First, people have to pay, right? We'll worry about the whys afterwards. So they have to have that loyalty and that devotion to the bravery, the ability to fight. I find it very crazy. I find it crazy, and I say this often to guys. I say, you're rolling around with these men who won't even fight to protect you because they're cowards. So they'll watch you get your head stomped to death and cower out and not even try and help you. And they'll be like, yeah, but he's funny. But he's funny? We're talking about life and death. You're talking about fucking funny? So if I can smell on someone that they wouldn't even attempt, I don't want to be anywhere near them for the same reason. And general professionalism. I've developed a habit where I punish myself for the smallest unprofessional actions. If I misplace my keys or misplace my phone, and it takes me more than 10 minutes to find it, I'll punish myself for that. Regardless, whether it's I don't spend money this week, or I don't go here, or I'm canceling that, or I'm going to defer buying something I want to buy. I punish myself religiously so that next time I put my phone down, I know where I put my phone. Next time I put it down, I know where I put it all the time. When I put it down, I know where my phone is. So when I'm around people like, hey, I lost my keys, or hey, bro, I forgot. When I'm around sloppy people, I don't like it. I like people who have their lives in order. When I detect sloppiness, I don't really want them too close to me, because gaps are where things sneak in. Other things are basic OPSEC, really basic OPSEC. I like that if I'm around my friends, if I'm ever sitting with my back to a room, this is an enclosed environment, but in a normal restaurant, I never sit with my back to the room. But if I have to do it, I like that I never do it. But if I have to do it, the people I roll with, they'll literally give me a nod. We'll sit down at dinner and I have to sit here, they'll go. And they'll pay extra attention for me because I can't see behind me. I like that level of professionalism. I like that. I like people, like I said, don't get weak, no hangovers, no crying their eyes out, no cowardice. It's infectious. Don't like that around me. No negativity. Don't like that around me. So there's certain things that I create a very, very particular reality. And it's actually interesting because to me, these things are all normal. But when you have these kind of standards, it's pretty hard to find friends. You're like, oh, you're a dumbass. You're a pussy. You're like, and you don't talk to that many people. But if you get a crew together that act that way, it's amazing how, not to get all airy-fairy, but it's almost an intangible. When you have 6 men in one place who are perspicacious, who are paying attention, who do have their things right, who don't lose things, who do it, the whole room can smell it. When me and my crew walk in a room, even if it's almost like an energy. Some guy can be eating his dinner, not even see us walk in and go, 6 predators. It's like the rabbit when the fox comes. Like you can smell when the guys turn up. Do you know what I mean? And everyone's experienced it. Everyone's seen it. So anyone I associate with, I have these very, very stringent metrics, and they're basically just to make sure that nobody gets inspired by something they can't resist to snake us. And also nobody's overly sloppy and allows a way for us to be infiltrated and destroyed. And one of the easiest ways that people, especially in the modern world today, especially people in my position, are infiltrated and destroyed are women. So with women, I create that very heavily. If you get a guy who's thirsty and he's on your crew, let's say I have problems with another crew, let's say, and I know they have a member who's thirsty. That is the easiest job in the world. You get one hot bitch to Instagram message. You're going to find out where they are, what they're doing, where they've been, the hotel room right now. It's fucking done deal. You can do whatever you want to them idiots, right? You gotta have guys who can turn that shit down. I've had it a bunch of times in my life where I've been in countries. I was in Sofia, Bulgaria. I was talking to this girl. She's like, hey, 10 out of 10. And I've been talking to her for a few weeks. She's like, hey, let's meet at this place. I'm like, let's go here. No, this is my favorite place. Let's go here. And I was like, no, I'll turn pussy down. I could have been wrong. Could have been right. Could have been right. We're never going to know. I'll turn it down. But if you have that guy in your crew, hey, bro, she's so hot, bro. So hot. That's problems for you and him and everyone else. So you got to be very careful with the kind of life you're living. But if you live with people who have their lives in order, it's important. But professionalism is also a really big one. When I see people who are sloppy, it makes me very uncomfortable. Just general long. And I love that he is a man of purpose. And I have so much respect for men of purpose. Most people who get his kind of paycheck whenever he got it in the 90s would have just cashed out, hedonism and bullshit. He decided to risk it all again to try and achieve the most impossible things. That's how you got to where you are. That's how I got to where I am. When you have enough to stop, but you don't stop. For some reason, there's some new mountain to climb. And that is what's beautiful about men as a whole. All of the exploration on the planet, the deep sea, Antarctica, Mount Everest, all of it was a man who had enough and thought, no, I'm going to go anyway. And that's who Elon is. So I have so much respect for him because he doesn't need to do any of the stuff he's doing. And he's adopting the biggest problems in the world and all the headache that comes with it. You're right. All the heat and all the dislike and all the pressure, he's adopting it anyway. And those are the kind of men we need more of. The men who say, you know what? Yeah, I do have enough. It's not about enough.
Who are some guys that
You're getting up and you're working, doesn't matter what it is. We need people who do these jobs. And I have absolute respect for you. And when I talk about escaping the matrix, I'm not saying that, if you're working a normal job, you suck. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you want to live the life I live and you want to have all the things I have, then you have to escape. Of course, it's going to be difficult. But I have absolute respect for anyone who gets up in the morning and faces their demons and gets it done. Because life as a man is fucking hard. It is really hard to do.
Final top
41 tenets.
Interesting.
If you disagree with any of them, I would love to hear feedback on any of them. So these are the 41 things I believe in most. And before I read out this framework, it doesn't matter if you are a Muslim, a Christian. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, weak or strong. I think if any man lives true to these tenets, they're going to have a fantastic relationship with life. And also they're going to be a good force and good influence for people around them. And I think that all in all, they're going to enjoy their experience, their human experience, and the people close to them will also enjoy their presence. So that's what this is about. These are the 41 things I believe in. So here we go. I believe that men have the divine imperative to become as capable, powerful, and competent as possible in this life. I reserve my human right to hold my own beliefs and practice them as I see fit and allow other people the same right to believe and act as they wish. I prefer loving, rewarding, consensual relationships with beautiful, positive, and virtuous women. I believe men and women are different and that each has their own unique and important strengths and abilities. I believe men have the sacred duty to protect and provide for the important people in their lives. I believe men have the sacred duty to protect the innocence and sanctity of their children and reserve the right and responsibility to raise their children as they see best to ensure their long-term happiness and success. I believe that men have the sacred duty to raise strong, capable, and honorable sons. I believe that men have the sacred duty to raise kind, feminine, and virtuous daughters. I utterly disapprove of violence within romantic or familiar relationships. I support good and honest governments and will obey their laws. I prefer to only conduct business dealings with trusted and vetted brothers. I believe that a man has the sacred duty to hold true to his word and do exactly what he says he will do. I believe that a man's life is difficult and that he has the sacred duty to become strong to handle such difficulty. I believe men are personally responsible for their actions and for the results they achieve in their lives. I believe in emotional control and the vital need to become disciplined and professional in all things. I believe that men have the sacred duty to approach everything in life from a position of strength. I believe that all men have the sacred duty to become men of upright and virtuous character and live above all possible reproach. I believe it is incumbent upon me to ruthlessly identify my own weaknesses and limitations, and I eagerly work to overcome them and become more capable in all realms. I seek to improve my personal freedom to think, act, and live true to my masculine imperative in all ways. I believe each man has a sacred duty to mold the physical body into the strongest, most resilient, and most capable version of itself. I believe that men have the sacred duty to rigorously train themselves, both physically and mentally, every day. I believe that I have the sacred duty to only eat the highest quality foods possible. I reserve the right to protect the sanctity of my bloodstream and make my own decisions about medical care and procedures. I affirm the importance of endlessly improving my mental faculties through diligent work, study, and practice. I believe in acquiring wealth and abundance in order to improve my life and do good for those I care about. I believe in the merits of healthy competition and constantly encourage all men to seek out competition to improve themselves. I believe that masculine brotherhood is essential to men's mental health, happiness, and success, and I relentlessly encourage men to meet together, train together, and work together. I maintain the trust of my brothers through reverent silence regarding our most sacred and shared experiences. I believe in honoring my ancestors and living in a way that would make most of them proud of me today. I reserve the right to administer difficult rites of passage for our young men to allow them to earn the rank of manhood. I affirm the importance and need for travel and adventure as men. I seek to help men overcome poor mental health through embracing hard work, physical improvements, and shared masculine brotherhood. I reserve the right to make the best choices I can at the time to protect myself and respect my mental health. I do good in the world and seek to help those less fortunate. I believe all men have the responsibility to lead and guide those they care about for greater health, prosperity, and happiness. I choose to only interact with those who are respectful and civil to me in return for my own respectfulness and civility. I reserve the freedom to speak and refer to others as I believe is best and most truthful. I reserve the right to choose my company and include only those whom I believe are best for my health, happiness, and success. I believe I have an imperative to only spend my time in a way that I determine is beneficial, uplifting, and empowering to myself and others. I choose to only allow myself to be influenced by those who I believe have my best interests in mind. And the final one, each day I dedicate myself anew to create the greatest possible positive impact on the world and do the work necessary to achieve a greater masculine excellence across all realms of human endeavor. Those are the 41 things.
Powerful.